Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Spirits and Ghost Stories. I'm your host, Thomas Aarons,
And I'm Carly Bird.
week 26, and a happy birthday to you. We had her birthday celebration this past weekend, so that is why we're a little late getting this episode out to you guys.
We're partying hard.
Yeah, we were partying hard. How was your birthday?
It was fantastic. I spent the day with my mom, which every 28-year-old woman hopes to say they get to do that. She took me all over and we looked at plants because I am obsessed with them. And then the evening of my birthday, my lovely hubby cooked me a beautiful meal. And I say beautiful because it was not only delicious as it should be, but it was also perfectly displayed, and it was like a 4-course meal. It was everything a girl could ever want.
Scallops,
Mm-hmm.
seared scallops, spiked on a rosemary stick.
Yeah.
We had crab cakes that we crumbled over baked garlic mashed potatoes, tilapia, and the scallops. Then we also had boiled crab legs, and we actually also made some ceviche, which is a little harder to make than I thought. But
yeah.
it was
Oh my
really
gosh.
good.
It was just the food kept coming, and I was just like, bring it. It was amazing.
And I'm really glad you had to spend some time with your mom. When she says she's obsessed with the garden, guys, or just plants, oh my God.
I like them inside and I like them outside.
Things
like
to know
in
before
every
you get
room.
Married. But no, she really loves them. And our living room looks like a botanical garden. It's insane right now.
I wish.
Oh, well, it's getting there.
Thanks, babe.
You have so many plants the dog was afraid to sleep.
That is true. The night we came home from like plant shopping, and I like kind of reorganized the living room so that it looked more like a botanical garden than it did previously. The dog decided to sleep in the living room for some reason, and we woke up to him barking at one of the plants because it was making like a shadow on the wall. So apparently, I had to take that down.
Yeah, that's a problem. Well, he's not brave to begin with.
No, he's not.
And for this week, well, we have a really special episode that Carly will actually do all the research on this week. And then for what we're drinking tonight.
Yeah, we need to explain that.
Yeah, we have water and coffee because, like we talked about last week, this is Spirits and Ghost Stories, but we're also about drinking responsibly. So we're taking a month off. Don't worry, guys.
Do they call that a sabbatical?
Yeah, a sabbatical,
yeah.
Fasting, whatever you will. But it's just to kind of say like, hey, guys, drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive. All that jazz.
Take care of your body.
Yep, take care of your body.
Listen to your body. When your body says, hey, you alcoholic nincompoop, take a break. Listen to it.
Mm-hmm. We are trying to get in super shape for the horse riding season this year.
Yes,
and this is part of it. But we will be going back to our regular scheduled broadcasting here shortly. We're just taking a little break, trying to cleanse our bodies. And honestly, it's definitely noticeable, especially when you stop, when you take it out of your routine, I guess. And that's a horrible way to say it. But yeah, it's like, oh, wow, like this is like a difference. I feel cleaner. I feel pure.
It's easier to get up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
For me, whenever I don't drink alcoholic beverages the night before. And then it kind of gives me a clearer mind. So
yeah, especially since I'm going carnivore, a carnivore diet from now until, my voice sounds weird right now. Anyway, carnivore diet from now until I think April I'm trying. So 2 months of carnivore just to
February, March.
Okay. Yeah, just to try to clean out my body. I did it once before with amazing results. I felt way better.
It was fantastic.
I don't know if it's like you can do that the rest of your life, but to kind of kickstart and get yourself feeling good. And then
disclaimer, not nutritionists here, but
it really helped us, especially the inflammation and puffiness. Like apparently I'm allergic to something, but I just feel way better when it just comes to mobility and waking up in the morning. It's just so weird. You eat a lot of carby stuff.
It really does cause a lot more inflammation.
This is week 3. I'm trying not to cut you off, but this is like week 3 of us doing carnivore. Week 2, like light. We're segueing into it slowly. And when we had Chinese food one evening, and holy goodness, it kicked my
wrecked
butt.
us.
Yes, the next morning, just feeling puffy and sluggish and blah.
Yes.
And so I don't know, but it's the new year, new us. We're getting into better shape, and we're trying to get better with storytelling. And what I mean by that is just kind of getting a little bit more background into everything we do.
Yeah.
So
not just jumping into a scary story, but actually doing some research on the origins of the creepy cryptid that we are talking about. And to be honest, okay, so Carly did the research for this week.
Well
And
done.
to be honest, it felt like making a research paper. I did enjoy it because it was about a creepy, well, let's just get to it. It was a Sasquatch,
Ooh.
but I'm not really good at research papers. So we'll see how it goes. I enjoyed doing it for the most part, but it
Mm.
might seem like I am kind of like bouncing you from one subject to the next because that's kind of my brain. So, are you ready for it?
Yeah. So what do you got for us?
All right. Today we are talking about the Sasquatch or Bigfoot, as it is also proclaimed.
Mm.
As early as 1884, the British colonists' newspaper in Victoria, Canada, published an account of a gorilla-type creature captured in the area. Other accounts, largely decreed as hoaxes, followed. But according to the Canadian Encyclopedia, Sasquatch is said to be a large ape-like creature that lives primarily in the forests, stretching from the west coast of British Columbia to Northern California, and to a lesser extent throughout North America. Sasquatch is a cryptid, a creature whose existence is suggested but not yet been confirmed by the scientific community. Like the Yeti of Asia or the abominable snowman of the Himalayas, Sasquatch is rooted in indigenous legends and is commonly researched by cryptozoologists and enthusiasts. Some believe Sasquatch is a nearly extinct species of hominid that survives in isolation, while others consider the creature to be the product of folklore and a hoax. The name and origin of Sasquatch is believed to be an anglicization. Hold on.
Anglicization?
Anglicization of the Salish word Sasquatch.
Well, if you're trying to have me help you with pronunciation, this is
I'm
the
not even
wrong
going to
person.
ask, my love. It comes from the Salish word of Sasquatch, and I'm not quite sure I'm going to be pronouncing a lot of these words correctly, but just hear me out. So the Sasquatch means wild man or hairy man. J.W. Burns coined the term in the 1930s. Burns was an Indian agent assigned to the Chehalis Band, now known as the Stalis First Nation. The Stalis people claim a close bond with the Sasquatch and believe it has the ability to move between the physical and spiritual realm.
Hmm.
Sasquatch has also been commonly known as Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. I found it very interesting that they believed that the Sasquatch can move from the spiritual to the physical realm because, I don't know, I believe in those realms as it is to be able to go from like ghosts, you know, how ghosts can kind of move in and out and you can see them.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you go because if you guys didn't watch last week's Snallygaster, really good episode, the Celtic mythology and how those old tribalist and this is the thing with same with Christianity, is Islam, Judaism. A long time ago, the stories and how there was a lot of mythology, and it's so weird that those not weird is the wrong word, interesting,
Yeah.
that those older, or I'm sorry, younger religions, you could say, when they were younger, and the Celtic religions and Celtic, I guess, paganism. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked.
It's getting too deep, folks.
The mysticism of it is so early to be thinking this way, but the idea of there is some truth into all these stories that are told, but then it's also that fantasism, that fantasy that's so cool. Like Snallygaster's spoiler was like, it looks kind of like a dragon,
Right.
and you think of it in the context of Appalachia, and you're like, this makes no sense. But then you look at the history and you're like, oh no, this makes sense.
Right.
It's those old mystical stories that was carried over and it grew. And so the idea with this, what you're saying, it's so interesting. Like back then, there was that mystic thing that they brought with them.
Right. But remember, all that folklore is based by some kind of truth,
Yes.
some little nugget of something
Of
that
truth,
really did
yes.
happen, that people really did experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the idea, like for some cultures, you're not allowed to eat a certain thing.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, there's more to it. Like some cultures don't eat shellfish. And there's like this mystical side of it because a higher power will smite you. But it's also like, oh yeah, well, if you don't cook shellfish right, you'll die. So it's like, oh, there's the little bit of truth
Right.
maybe that the
They
reason
didn't know that back then,
Yeah.
and a lot of people were dying, so they said, "Oh, that's a bad, that's a bad
to
thing
keep
to eat."
people alive.
Mhm.
Like the last thing, sorry about this, I thought was really cool, was like malaria, part of the word is derived from air that smells bad. And it's like
Mm,
you would find mosquitoes in swamps where it smells bad.
right.
And so it's like, oh, wow. So there's always these like little nuggets of like, oh, this is kind of a truth,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just interesting to me.
Right. Right. Like what animal did exist back when he was first sighted? Some big hairy creature. Was it just a bear? Anyway,
Mhm.
now we're getting into sightings. When the term Bigfoot was while the term Bigfoot is far from bound to a single location, the name Bigfoot can be traced to one specific event in 1958.
Hmm.
The employees of a logging company operated in the Six Rivers National Forest in Humboldt County, California, woke up to a strange sight. Enormous human shaped footprints were embedded in mud all over the camp, and a 450-pound drum of oil had been moved, but not by the loggers. Upon sharing their story, the workers found that similar tracks had been seen at dozens of other camps. To talk about their findings, the loggers began to refer to Bigfoot. After a quick call to the Humboldt Times newspaper, the Bigfoot name and legend had been born in the United States.
Wow.
So that's basically when it was brought to the United States. Before this, it had all been
Mhm.
in Canada, in the northern regions.
That is interesting. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So at this point, there has been more than 10,000 eyewitnesses and accounts of Bigfoot in the continental U.S. in the last 50 years.
Wow.
Those who saw him often described him as measuring up to 9 feet tall and over 700 pounds. Not sure how you can weigh a Bigfoot, but
Mhm.
lots of speculation there.
Yeah, a lot of speculation.
And covered in long dark hair. Its footprints are said to measure up to 19 inches. Plaster casts of what are said to be Sasquatch tracks are often found as proof of existence, though the authenticity of such tracks is highly disputed.
Mhm.
Film footage shot in 1967 that shows Bigfoot running through the woods near Bluff Creek, California, is perhaps the most famous evidence offered by the cryptids by its proponents. There has been no documented discovery of Sasquatch remains. I did watch that footage. It looks like a person dressed up in a gorilla costume walking around outside. So I'm not sure that convinced me that it was true. But as I read on, I found the coolest website that I had no idea existed, and I'd love to talk with you about it.
Absolutely.
It's called the BFRO, which is, hold on, let me just pull that up real quick. It's called the Geographic Database of Bigfoot / Sasquatch sightings and reports. No joke, this website has in detail every single sighting, news report clipping, person who saw it, what time of year it happened, when the exact sighting happened, what the person was doing. Oh my gosh, in detailed. They have this map on the website. And you can click any state, any county.
What's the name of the website again?
It's called bfro.net. And it brings up literally any sighting that you've ever seen. Like you can click on it by state, and I'll tell you which county. BFRO.
BFRO dot net.
The Bigfoot field. Hold on. I just clicked something and then it started moving. This website, you can click each state by the word or by the picture of the state, and then you can go down and click on the Canadian sighting reports.
Oh.
Did you find it?
Mhm.
All right. For the viewers that are watching this and not listening, feel free to gaze your eyes upon this beautiful website that I found. It is created by, oh my God, there's a name right here. All right. The website provides a comprehensive database of credible sightings and related reports maintained by an all-volunteer network of Bigfoot / Sasquatch
There
researchers,
we go. Sorry about that, guys.
archivists, and investigators in the United States and Canada.
That is really cool.
The website itself was created and updated by Matthew Moneymaker, a California resident. When you also delve deeper into the website itself, they provide the ability to register for a Bigfoot expedition that's held, I think, yearly, where apparently Sasquatch enthusiasts get together in commonly cited locations and hope to find tracks or hear him or even spot him. And then there's also like reviews down at the bottom of that registration link, and people actually talk about the Sasquatch that they saw, or this was so cool getting together with other enthusiasts and we heard Sasquatch in the woods. And I don't know, this website really floored me.
It's a community. It's really neat. Like, I mean, I don't know. All these sightings are going to be like something, but like that is like clearly the Bigfoot does have a cult following.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If you've been living under a rock, like Bigfoot has a cult following. And then this website will be shared in the episode description. So if you would like to put in your sighting of Bigfoot or follow along, you can.
Oh my gosh, check it out. You just keep clicking and it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. This thing must have existed for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And for the people listening to the podcast episode, check out the YouTube channel. We're sharing the screen right now, so you can kind of like follow along with us. But that's really cool, Carly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I could just keep going and like telling you what I see, but I'll just let you to look at that yourself and kind of delve deeper. So onward. There are more theories of Bigfoot's origins. Assuming that the Bigfoot is real, not just the product of thousands of overactive imaginations over hundreds of years. In the link, amateur scientists imagine Bigfoot as the fabled missing link between apes and humans. Its bipedal stature and language-like vocalizations place it firmly in the camp of human features, while its massive structure and enormous strength and hair-covered body give credence to its origins in the great apes. Older cultures seem to have a different explanation. The Bigfoot is seen in many indigenous stories as a force of nature, more akin to a minor god or mythical creature than a fully embodied species. When the balance of nature is threatened, these gigantic ape-like men will show up to fix what has been made wrong, like the clear-cutting of an ancient forest or example. So what does that remind you of?
Captain Planet?
Godzilla.
Oh.
Doesn't that sound exactly like Godzilla? You were so random.
Why did I say Captain Planet?
I don't even know what Captain Planet is.
You don't know who Captain Planet is?
I don't know.
Captain Planet, he's our hero. I'm old as shit because I remember this. He's gonna take pollution down to zero.
Whoa.
Gonna help him.
Okay, we gotta watch that sometime.
We're the Planeteers. You can be one too. Because saving our planet is the thing to do. Looting and pollution is not the way.
It goes on?
It has to say. Why do I remember that? Why was I just thinking about that?
Captain Planet. You know what's
Holy
so
shit.
funny is that Tommy said Captain Planet, but he's literally obsessed with Godzilla.
I know. I just think it's so weird.
Literally obsessed. I was like, oh, he's going to get it right away. It's Godzilla or Mothra or whatever.
I don't know why Bigfoot like in Captain Planet like, yep, you know what? The power is yours. He's just protecting
Captain Planet.
Oh my gosh. Now
Okay.
I just see, oh god, the visuals now. I just see him showing up places and then just like Smokey the Bear, except with pollution.
Yeah, or even if you said Smokey the Bear, it would have made more sense than Captain Planet.
I'm gonna stop talking. Just keep going.
Okay. Woo, that was fun. All right, so the strangest theory of them all, though, has to be that Bigfoot is an alien or extra-dimensional creature. Modern proponents of this theory rest their case on Bigfoot being able to use interdimensional portals to travel through space and time, much like UFOs and other difficult-to-prove creature sightings. This is one of the few theories to account for the fact that Bigfoot bones have never been found. They simply zip away to another dimension, leaving no trace of their existence here on Earth. So that's basically the background that I have. It sounds as though Bigfoot is less spotted than Snallygaster from my research. It has to be more spotted.
Oh, yeah, it's way more spotted. Yeah.
It's more spotted than the Snallygaster, but I feel like the Snallygaster had like more proof somehow because they, found a dead animal in the moonshine, and
I will say
they saw it. I don't know.
Definitely more sightings than Bigfoot, because what's interesting with Bigfoot
You mean Bigfoot has more sightings than the Snallygaster?
Yes, correct.
Sorry.
Because it is in every continent. Every
Right.
culture has their own Bigfoot.
Right.
Not every culture has a dragon. Though, that's my theory with the Snallygaster is it's more like a dragon symbolism. So you could say like both.
True. And the
If you're
Snallygaster was only sighted in the Appalachian.
Yeah, Appalachian areas.
Versus the Bigfoot has literally been sighted across the entire U.S.
Yeah.
and then in Canada and then other
Appalachia,
continents.
Colorado Rockies, Canada. Like it's insane.
Mm-hmm. Well, to end this beautiful historical documentation that I have created for you all, I would like to point your eyes towards the possible museums you can go to see other information that has been gathered about Bigfoot / Sasquatch. The museum that I found was located in Georgia called the Sasquatch Museum in Blue Ridge, Georgia. And another one that I found in Oregon, which makes more sense to me in Oregon because it's so close to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
That one in Oregon actually looked a little bit more legit. Whereas the Georgia one kind of was like, you're really far off base here. I'm sure there's been sightings in Georgia, but I feel like it's more so packed in that Oregon, Canada area, Washington State, like with the big woods and forests. Anyway, check out those links. I'll include those in the description below as well. It's time to get into our story, folks. And our story, it's taken a little bit of a twist and turn. Our story was written by W.R. Wildwood, and it's coming from a different perspective today. Usually, whenever you hear a scary story, it's coming from the perspective of the campers and the things that they saw in the woods and how terrified and horrified they are and how little Johnny died in the woods, somehow mysteriously torn to shreds. Well, this perspective is from the Sasquatch and what he sees in the woods.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that idea.
So this story is called Bigfoot Beer. A pair of hairless ones fascinated the Sasquatch. He had never observed them from this close before. They seemed slow and ill-suited for the forest, loud and bright, and pretty much oblivious to the world around them. He watched them catch fish in the river while the sun sank towards the trees. They seemed so blind, even in the afternoon light. On several occasions, he could have reached out and touched one as it walked right past him. From behind a big tree, he watched as they built a fire and cooked their catch. The wonderful aroma combined with the security of the deepening shadows of the night to draw him in even closer, right to the edge of camp. Night fell and the sky filled with stars while they ate, talked, and drank from dark bottles. The Sasquatch had seen those bottles many times, discarded along roadways. The receding moon was high when both the hairless ones finally crept into the small, colorful shelter they had earlier built and began snoring loudly. He waited until he was certain both were sound asleep. Then quietly he investigated the camp, being careful not to trip on the thin vines holding the shelter erect. The aroma of the cooked fish hung in the air, teasing him with those wondrous smells. His nose pinpointed the source immediately. There, next to the dying fire, was the black pan they had used to hold the fish in the fire. Inside was a layer of buttery, fishy fat that delighted his tongue as he promptly licked it clean. It served only to arouse his hunger, and he looked about for more food. Nearby were two strange, blocky objects, bright to his eyes even in the shadows of the night. He recognized one as the container the hairless ones had lifted the bottles from. He could even see some of them sitting in mostly melted ice. The other container had a lid. Careful not to make a sound, he soon worked out how to open it. Inside was more strange objects. He lifted one out and it fell open. 3 eggs crashed to the ground, their cracking shells loud in the cool night air. The Sasquatch froze, but there was no pause in the snoring from the shelter. He continued his inquiries into the contents. Something wrapped in thin white paper smelled familiar, so he tore it open. Thin strips of pig. Popping some of them into his mouth, he crunched with his teeth, savoring the texture and taste even though it was strangely bloodless and dry. It clogged his mouth with its lack of fluid, and his eyes returned to the almost dead coals of the fire. The memory of the hairless ones sizzling their meat over the flames came to his vision and his nose, and he got an idea. Fire was dangerous and to be avoided. He knew that. Even the youngest Sasquatch knew that. But it had made such delicious smells. He looked at the dry, tasteless pig meat in his hand and then looked back at the glowing coals. Creeping closer to its red glow, he held the pig meat towards it, feeling the warmth on his knuckles as he did so. But it did nothing. The meat would not sizzle, as he had heard when the hairless ones did it, but the fire had been hotter then. It had certainly been much brighter. Seeing some sticks lying nearby, he picked one up and tossed them into the coals. At first, they did nothing, so he leaned in closer and blew like he had seen the hairless ones do. Instantly, the wood caught, and he sat back, the flames swiftly rising. Holding the meat out again, the fire felt so hot, so he picked up the pan he had licked, dropped the pig meat into it, and carefully placed it onto the flames, just like he'd seen the hairless ones do. It worked, for soon the meat was sizzling and smoking, the delicious smells rising right into his nostrils. He could not resist, and went to pick up the crispy piece, but it burnt his fingers, making him drop it, right into the fire. Without thinking, he went to save it from the flames, but the intense heat was too much. There was a pungent smell, and he saw some of the long hairs of his black hand were smoldering, heating with his skin. In desperation, he blew on his hand, but that turned the smolders into flames. Panicking, he waved his hand about, trying to put the flames out, but instead they flared into bright life, quickly spreading across the back of his hand and burning his skin. Frantic now, his eyes caught the box with the ice in it. He plunged his hand into it with relief, and the flames sizzled and died the moment they were dunked below the icy water.
These campers have got to be like you when it comes to sleeping with all
They
this
can't
going
hear a
on.
damn thing.
There is no way I would be able to sleep through all this going on.
When they're
outside.
out, they're out. I bet they were dreaming of bacon.
Yeah.
He glanced at the bright shelter, but the snoring continued unabated. The cold water felt so good. There was a clink, and his hand rested upon the bottles, so he pulled it out to take a closer look. In the light from the fire, the moon, from the fire. Okay. In the light from the fire and the moon, his night eyes could clearly see some type of liquid in the bottle. He shook it, and small bubbles appeared, rising towards the little metal bit at the top. The tiny bubbles caught the moonlight and were strangely pleasing, so he shook it again harder. More bubbles rose, and he could not help but grunt quietly with pleasure. He shook it again, really hard this time. There were a lot of bubbles now, all crammed up against that tiny metal bit. He felt it with his fingers, and it moved a little bit. Now on the edge of his hearing was a faint, high whistling sound. It seemed to come from the tiny metal bit at the top. He inspected it closely, curious. The Sasquatch touched the metal bit again, and suddenly it was gone, and sticky spray was hitting him right in the face. It fizzed and sputtered out in the quiet night air, panicking him even further. Frantically trying to stop the noise, he jammed his hand over the end, but it kept sputtering out around his palms. Desperately, he tried using his mouth. That worked. The noise instantly stopped, but it was too late. He heard the movement from the shelter and froze in position. One of the hairless ones was coming out. He was completely exposed. The hairs on his shin dangerously close to the flickering fire, one hand holding the bottle in his mouth. Bracing to bolt, he forced himself to stay perfectly still. Maybe it would not see him. One of the hairless ones climbed out and stretched, holding the small of his back with one hand and scratching its groin with the other. Peering about, it looked right at him, even pausing for a breathless moment. But then its eyes passed on as it shook its head and walked across the camp towards the edge of the fire. The Sasquatch heard and smelt it relieve itself, still shaking its head. Soon it had finished and turned back towards him. Once again, it looked right at the Sasquatch, still frozen in position, the bottle still in his mouth. Thankfully, the fizzing sound had stopped, but the bubbles in the liquid seemed to be doing something to his head because his vision suddenly swam and he felt his legs go numb. He didn't think he could move now if he wanted to, but strangely, he did not seem to care anymore. because he's getting drunk. With an effort, he held his stillness as the hairless one walked back across the camp and climbed back into the shelter, shaking its head the whole way. Soon it was snoring again. Finally, the Sasquatch felt it was safe to move and remove the bottle from its mouth to study it. It looked for a moment. It took a moment for its eyes to focus, but when he did, he saw that over half the liquid was gone. His mouth tingled with 1,000 sensations, and his head swam like he was falling.
Brought to you by moonshine.
Yet he was still erect. He emptied the rest of the bottle into his mouth and belched happily.
Erect or erect?
He was still erect.
Okay.
He was still standing.
Gotcha.
It's spelled the same way.
Gotcha.
He emptied the rest of the bottle into his mouth and belched happily. This stuff was good. Forgetting the now smoking bacon in the fire, he gathered up the few remaining bottles from the white container and crept into the shadows, into the trees. He's having a party! Around him, the forest swam and flowed like the trees were made of water, so he did not go far beyond lying back against a boulder and inspecting his prizes again. The lids popped off easily enough without shaking, and in no time all the bottles were empty. Now his head swam really bad, and he fell sideways into a deep, dream-troubled sleep. As the sun rose, not even the noisy departure of the hairless ones intruded his dreams. He never heard one exclaim, "Hey, what happened to the beer?" Nor the other one reply, "That's strange. Reminds me of a dream I had last night. You wouldn't believe what I saw." And that was the tale of the Bigfoot beer.
Oh my God.
I thought it was cute.
Like, this has been brought to you by Ritalin, Rufalin, whatever it's called,
I
the
don't
date
know.
rape drug.
It's-
Because
no,
how
it's-
the heck can you sleep through all of that? Or it's brought to you by really hard liquor.
I guess they drank a lot.
But I like the POV, like the idea of like going through like Bigfoot's eyes. And this also gets to like my point or my thoughts is that I definitely Bigfoot's some type of primate. I think no shit, like spoilers. Whether it looks like it like we think it does or not, I think it could be some type of ape where it's like maybe doesn't walk always on all fours because like sometimes like gorillas, chimpanzees, chimps specifically will walk on two legs. I think that's what it is. I think totally is some kind of primate. Whether it looks like we think it does, that's where I'm thinking like North America doesn't have any apes. Like it's never had that. Like Africa, south of like
Maybe it's just a winter ape.
What?
It's a winter ape, like an abominable snowman.
Oh yeah, but okay. But what I'm saying is, why is it North America is the only place that does not have a primate? Most other continents have some type of primate.
Okay.
And so with that said, the snallygaster really could have been somebody saw an eagle, a bigger eagle, like the ones in South America, and like, oh, that looks like a dragon. If you were in North America and you saw a gorilla or something like that, or an ape, you like that's a Bigfoot.
Right.
All it has to do is run through the thicket real quick on two legs before going back to all fours.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, boom, there's your story.
And gorillas are also known for like traveling extremely fast.
Yes. And then what do you know you're doing? You're playing telephone tag. And you know, like if you guys play that game where like you say to one thing to one person and it goes around in a circle and always like it's never the same when it gets back to you.
Right.
It's the same thing. All you have to do is see something that kind of looks like a Bigfoot.
Like a bear.
Like a bear on all fours. Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have that. But to me, the reason I don't think it's a bear is it does have these weird primate tendencies, throwing rocks. They say that shaking trees, things like that are very much like a primate thing. And then you thread that through that it's been through all cultures.
Yeah, true.
All over the world. And it's like, okay, maybe it is just like, I don't think Bigfoot is probably what we think it is, a 6-7 foot haired individual. But I think what could it be, some kind of primate that's smaller and then we've blown it up over time? That makes logical sense to me. But that's a really cool story just to have a POV of like what it's thinking, specifically of humans. And the fact that it's inquisitive too.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. There are a lot more stories on the website. We'll include that link also in the description below. But again, it's by W.R. Wildwood, and he actually has written like novels about the POV of Sasquatch / Bigfoot, and then other, I think, mythological creatures.
Mythological creatures. And that gets us to the scary stuff in the news. And I didn't plan this, but we have this that just came out, and I'll share it to you guys. So for all you guys watching the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see this thing. And it is Bigfoot in the news. And it's actually Kentucky. So this is an Appalachian Bigfoot.
Ooh.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. This is why I hate the pad. And
Where's your
why
mouse?
I wish I had a mouse. Try again.
Every single week, I forget that we're supposed to do a news thing. I forget. What is wrong with me?
You did an amazing job with what you did. So anyway, searching for Bigfoot.
Thank you.
Kentuckians share close encounter and the missing and the mission to find Bigfoot. Eyewitnesses share their encounter with a potential Bigfoot sighting. Charlie Raymond founded Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization. Raymond presents his findings on Bigfoot in various communities. The group goes on expeditions and documents the sightings. Even now, more than 3 decades of research continues with the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization. I feel like we do need to have a banjo playing in the background when I read this. The venture into the forest, the ventures into the forest on expeditions dictate to locals the mythical creature of Bigfoot, more than just a grunt. Now, I did hear a kind of sound first. That was first thing it did. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get into his mindset. Okay, guys?
You made me snort.
I actually thought, honestly, it was people messing with me. So it threw a stick and I picked it up and I threw it back. But when I did that, it let out this diabolical blood-curdling yelp. I mean, it was loud.
Oh, man.
Adam said he and a couple of friends decided to spend the night at Red River Gorge in the woods during the weekend in June 2004. It was at this time, he says, the sounds became so loud that it made his hair blow back while they were setting up their tent. How much moonshine and alcohol and or meth do you think these guys were doing?
Lots.
Lots?
Yeah. I mean, they're just packing.
And the fact that is such a country thing to like, they threw rocks at us, so we threw them back.
Yeah.
Y'all get.
Don't get.
Not like what is happening here, whatever. You know, they're having a rock throwing, stick throwing contest with this stupid thing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's all right. This is the last piece. I like this piece. It sounded like if I wouldn't compare like a bull run into a branch of spalling trees, you can hear him bragging and snapping. In the footfalls are super heavy, like boom, boom, boom. This was written into print.
Boom.
And it gets probably, I wouldn't say maybe 40 to 50 feet away and makes a big, huge sound and stops, but doesn't come any closer. But we wouldn't see what it was. This guy's English. And this was written, guys. It was still behind the brush. I tried to hit it with a flashlight. I couldn't see anything at all, but I knew something was there. So
when was this written?
This was written this October. This was published October 27, 2021.
Wow, this is recent.
Very recent. And
okay,
I love,
go back to the top. I want to see.
I love the part of that story where he says he hit it with a flashlight. And I believe what he meant is he shined the light on it. But this guy also threw sticks. So I'm pretty sure he literally threw his flashlight at the thing.
Well, that's what I pictured when he said he hit it with the flashlight.
Yeah, the wording in that, and that he had to describe.
Like, how close are you that you can?
40 to 50 feet. He said he could not
40 to 50 feet. Okay, so he meant that he shined his light on it. But why don't we have footage? That's the question.
You can't have footage of that thing. It breaks the sacred rule of Bigfoot.
I suppose so.
And the fact that he had to describe the footfalls as boom, boom,
boom,
boom.
Boom,
I freaking love that so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I have in the news. We'll link this also. So if you guys want to look at the article yourself, you're more than welcome to. It gave me a fun little laugh. So
this was a fun episode. I really enjoyed doing it.
This was a lot of fun.
Sasquatch was a great, I guess, little mythological creature to research, and we really appreciate the fans that have suggested that we look into Sasquatch. Tess, we appreciate you, and let's wrap it up.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening. Everything will be, of course, in the episode description, and we'll see you next week on Spirits and Ghost Stories. Bye.
Bye.